Hi, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to Livewire Review. Today we're talking about the 2022 Tesla Model 3 long range with all-wheel drive. I'm going to start off with the range of this car. The APA rates the range on this car at 576 kilometers. Now you're only going to get that range if you put those aero covers on the wheels. And there's a couple other caveats to the range on this car. I've done a little bit of math on here. They've discovered that when you go below 0% on these cars, they actually give you a little bit of a buffer, kind of like when the gas light is on in an ICE vehicle. So with this car, I figured you should be able to get about 550 kilometers at the EPA rated range. So if you're getting 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100, you can get the range that it is stated. But you have to go from 100% all the way until the car stops. Now, not everybody does that. I've driven this car on the highway extensively. We've even taken this car out to the East Coast. And I can tell you that on the highway, you can safely get 420 to 470 kilometers, no problem. And that's from 100% to 0%. And this car charges very quickly. So you'll find this is an excellent, excellent road trip car. So let's talk a couple reasons. Why would you buy this car? Why would somebody choose a Tesla over a different electric vehicle? The reason I chose this car is actually due to a couple of things. One, I love its efficiency. And two, I also love how easy it is to live with. This car is so easy to live with. It's a software piece on wheels, and honestly, there's a lot of things in this software that work really well. The door handles are nothing but a glorified button, so when you pull on them, all it does is it opens the latch for you. But that's not the reason why it's easy. It's easy because I don't need a key to get into this car. The phone's in my pocket, it unlocks the car when I get close to it, and I get inside and I go on my way. So now that I'm in the car, basically I just put it in drive and I go. Everything is already warmed up before I get in the car. It's programmed at my house, so when I'm at my house, it'll be warmed up at 7 a.m. when I go to leave for work. And when I want to come home, I have it set it up at work so that way at 5 o'clock when I'm ready to leave, it's already warm and ready to go. Okay, so now we're in the car. I'd like to talk about road trips. This is a very easy car to take on a road trip because of a couple of things. One, there are Tesla superchargers just everywhere, and you don't have to know where they are. They show up on the map. Everything is integrated into the vehicle. You're going to find when you go on a road trip and you enter something in the navigation, that's all you have to do because the car will do the rest of it. They do something called like crowdsourcing of data in this car. Basically, every Model 3 that's on the road has a little bit of data that is given to Tesla headquarters, and they use that to make the navigation better. So there's lots of data of Tesla Model 3s of the same style, with the same battery pack, the same heat pump and everything. And what they do is they compare data on all those cars. So there's lots and lots of miles driven on all the cars across the US, Canada, and everywhere else in the world. So when they go to calculate your range on the navigation, they're going to calculate it based on a couple different things. I've even seen wind speed come up on the navigation. But basically, if you're going up a hill, down a hill, they take all the topography into play when they do your destination in the navigation. So let's say, from another video, we were going to go to Windsor, Ontario, and I just go like this on the scroll wheel, and I just say, navigate to Windsor, Ontario. Now, you can't see it here, but it's the first thing that popped up. It says finding superchargers along the way, and the reason it's doing that is because I'm not going to make it on one charge. I'm only at 50% charge right now. And it is planning out 2 different supercharger stops for me. And I'm not sure if you can hear that in the video, but the car actually just started warming up the battery. So when you go and set a destination in here, there's nothing to do. You literally just put it in drive and you go because it's so well integrated. It's telling me I'm going to have 39% when I get to the first supercharger. It's going to top me up for a couple of minutes here, and then it's going to pick another one in London, Ontario. It's very simple how this all works. If you scroll down and you were somewhere where you only had to go there and back on one charge, it'll even show you how much battery you're going to have on the way back. And I've driven this car almost 30,000 kilometers, and I can tell you that estimate is almost dead on every time. When I go on a trip, it's usually maybe off by about 2%. And every day it will be slightly different. Like if it's cold outside, it's going to take that into account. If the wind is coming at you, it's going to take that into account. If you're going up a hill, it's going to take that into account. I love the integration in this car. It just makes it very, very easy. And this is one of the top reasons why you see so many Teslas on the road. Because when you go to replace another car that you've been driving, it just works. You know, you get in the car, you expect it to get you from A to B, and you can do it in this car very easily. So there was a time that I was on a road trip and it actually got it a little bit wrong when I did the navigation on the way back. I started out my trip with 86% and we went down to Toronto and we came back. It was a very, very cold day into a headwind on the way home. It said I was going to get home with 4% charge. I obviously wasn't going to trust that because 4% is getting a little close. As we're going up the highway, passing some people, going a little faster than I should be, basically it started saying 3%, then 2%, then 1%. And I knew I wasn't going to make it home on that one charge. But the navigation took that into account for me. Basically, it said, you're not going to reach your destination. And it started routing me to a supercharger. So right there on the highway, it started warming up the battery, changed the route for me. And that way, I knew I was going to make it home. I stopped for a 5-minute charge, and we were on our way. It was pretty cool. So on to another reason why I like this car so much and why it's so easy to live with. It's the efficiency. It's got to be the efficiency. When these cars came out in 2018, they were rushed to be put together. Some of the build quality wasn't the greatest. They were actually painting some of these outside. They even had spot welds, like too many spot welds, 3 different types of glue in the back end. There was a lot of engineers working on this project. But when they were designing the car, they made something in the back with the drivetrain, and it's called a SYN RM motor. That's not a very interesting thing to talk about, so I'm not going to get deep into it. Basically, they changed the type of magnets that are in the motor, and because they design and build the motors in-house, they have full control over what happens. The end result of this SYN RM motor is that their drivetrains are 10% more efficient than the other motors you will find on the market. And the reason that is very special is because if you purchased a car that's exactly the same as this, but it used an off-the-shelf motor, this car is going to go 10% further. There's no question about it. It's just 10% further. So you couple a 10% more efficient motor with a 0.23 drag coefficient, and you have a car that can go well over 500 kilometers, or at least over 400 if you're on the highway. And it can do it repeatedly. It can do it in bad weather. In fact, I've been able to get the EPA rated range of 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100 after going up the highway on a cold day. It was about 2 degrees and snowing that day, and I was still able to get the EPA efficiency out of this car. So when you couple that 10% efficiency gain right off the bat and you take that low coefficient of drag, you'll find that wind isn't going to affect this car the same as it is, let's say, a Nissan Ariya or a Leaf or even our Kona, for example. The coefficient of drag allows it to slip through the air a lot better, and the SYN RM motor makes it better on the highway. I find that the efficiency on the highway in this car is excellent. Our Kona is pretty good, but it's not this good. So I'm just going to show you some of the storage in the front now. Now, to open the front of the car, you pull out your phone and it's always up on the display. So I just hit front trunk and the trunk will open. There is no other way to open it unless, let's say, the 12-volt battery died. Then there's actually a couple of wires that are hidden behind here. You can put a 9-volt battery on it and it will open this hood so you can get to all the stuff in here. Now, the trunk in the front isn't very deep, but it is handy. This should be able to fit one suitcase. It fits a lot of groceries when I go shopping. I like to put all the frozen stuff up here because it fits really well. I've got all my charging cables up here. I've got a couple of adapters. I got a tow rope, washer fluid. I got a couple pillows and some spare wiper blades. It's a good place to put stuff. It is sealed. It won't stand up to a pressure wash. So if you go through a car wash, you might get a little bit wet, but it is a very handy storage area. It just makes the car more versatile overall. When we go on a road trip, we got the front packed, we got the back packed, and then we actually had something hanging off the back to put some camping gear on. So very handy when it comes to storage. So even though it's a car, not an SUV, you're gonna find a place to put your stuff. Now, it's not a traditional car. This is an aluminum hood. They have aluminum panels on the car everywhere. So when you go to shut this hood, you have to rest it down here, and you gotta put 2 hands on it, and you got to push it shut. Don't slam these ones. It's not good for the hinge. You're going to hear some loud sounds you really don't want to hear. So I'm just going to talk about the trunk for a second. It is a powered trunk on the 2021 Plus Model 3s. And you're going to find a lot of room in here. There is a deep storage well that's hidden below, which is big enough for a full-size suitcase in most cases. Not all suitcases will fit in here, but it's incredibly deep. The only thing they don't give you though is a spare tire. There's no pump. So you got to make sure you have like a CAA or AAA membership, or you got to have the Tesla app so that they can come help you if you ever have issues on the road. I really do like this trunk. I find it's incredibly deep. I can fit all the way to the back here. It's hard to get my umbrellas and everything from the front. The only issue I do have with this is it's not a hatchback. So I would love this car so much more if it was a hatchback, but it's not. So we had to deal with the smaller opening. I've gone to Costco. I can fit most of my Costco stuff in here, but you're not going to fit everything from Costco. There was a day where I was stacking everything and being super careful. You do have to plan before you go to the store. So a couple of things you're going to find under the hood here. This is where you fill your washer fluid. The wipers are tucked up under here. You have to put that into wiper service mode if you're going to change the wipers. And if you ever need to get to the battery, all you do is you pull up this cover. It's just got some of these normal little clips on here, and you will find the 12-volt battery is here. On the newest models that are coming out now, there actually is no service to that battery. It uses a very small lithium-ion battery. In this case, we have a 12-volt lead-acid battery if you happen to get one that's about a year old. And here's your intake for your cabin filter, your brake fluids here, washer fluids here. There's nothing else here you can access unless you were to take out this tub, which I'm going to show in a different video. We're going to talk more about that heat pump that's in there. You're also going to find the fireman's loop is in here if you need to cut power to everything. So while I don't have the heat pump uncovered right now, and it's a beautifully chilly night out here, this is actually an excellent time to talk about the heat. The reason I bought the Kona before I bought a Tesla is because the Kona came with a very innovative heat pump for its time. The heat pump in the Kona, in the Hyundai products, draws from the liquid cooling loop that goes around them. Our Kona specifically has one liquid cooling loop. It goes around the battery, it goes around the inverter, it goes around the charger, and it goes around the motor. All of those things produce a small amount of heat when they're running, when you're operating, when you're drawing power from the battery. Even when you're putting power into the battery, it creates heat. Just not as much as you need to heat the inside of the car. So what they do with the heat pump system is they have the Freon and the liquid meet at one point. And the air conditioning system will run in reverse, and it will take the heat that is there and it'll amplify it. It makes it stronger, so that way you can get heat inside the cabin. The reason I like heat pumps so much is because they're so efficient. You're gonna find in our Kona, for example, you get about 90% of your range down to around -10. As long as you're not driving into like a heavy headwind or driving in super deep snow, you're gonna find you get about 90% of your range. This car is no different. They came up with the same sort of heat pump system. It's a little bit different in how it works. There is no air-to-air condenser in this one. There's a lot less hoses. They came up with something called the super manifold and that octo valve that everybody talks about. That's a very interesting piece of engineering because that octo valve has 12 different operating modes. You can find the information on those operating modes in other videos, but what I'm going to talk about the most is one mode I found very interesting. If you go to the store and you park, what the car is going to do is it's going to turn on the air conditioning when you lock the car. So it might be -10 out when you lock the car and you go in the store, but it's going to turn on the air conditioning because what it does is it's actually going to draw the heat that you've already put into the cabin. You've already spent all the energy warming up everything in there. So the air conditioner is going to take that heat and it's going to put it in reverse, and it's actually going to store it in the coolant surrounding the battery. That is pretty cool. I love that piece of engineering because it means that you can store upwards of 4 kilowatts worth of heat in the coolant surrounding the battery. Okay, that's all for today. There's a lot of information to cover on the Tesla Model 3, so I'm going to cut it off right here. Please let me know down in the comments, what would you like to know about this car? And we'll see you in the next video. As always, like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you.